Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I bring you another budget deck profile featuring something rather unique and kinda interesting, and that is going to be a Jagamon level 6 high roll deck. So the whole concept of the deck is to use Jagamon's ability to try to check the top cards of your deck to play level 6s on top of them for basically free, ignoring their Digivolution requirements, and you could use this in combination with some really powerful level 6s to try to cheese your way to getting into a very powerful board state before the opponent is expecting it. And thanks to BT05, we have a new Tamer that is interacting with this type of mechanic, thus pushing this type of a deck forward, and we know that in the future, there are going to be a couple of cards that are also going to support this type of sub-theme. So without further ado, let's go into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Argomon. So this Argomon is still a pretty decent Digitama to be using just because it has this nice inheritable ability of during your turn, when your Digimon becomes unsuspended during your unsuspend phase, then you get to gain 1 memory. So gaining a memory is just really important, especially since green is really tempo efficient ordinarily, so using that 1 memory could stretch or extend your plays to make even more powerful plays possible, thus why Argomon is looking to be a really good Digitama. And then the 5th Digitama could really be anything you feel like you want it to be. I'm just using Minomon just because this is the classic combination, because Minomon is still just a very good Digitama himself, by having the nice inheritable ability of when attacking, which is not locked once per turn. If you attack one of your opponent's Digimon, then this Digimon gains plus 1000 DP. So this is just a generic way of DP boosting your Digimon, making sure that yours are going to be stronger than the opponent's when you're attacking into their Digimon. Next, onto the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Goblimon. So Goblimon is just your value-efficient vanilla rookie, where you know the drill: low play cost, low evo cost, decent DP, just means he's a good card to run overall. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Agumon. So this is the green Agumon in BT02, and this Agumon is really nice because he has this generically decent inheritable ability, where during your turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP. So it's just another way of generically DP boosting your Digimon, so that way they're going to be even stronger when you're going to be swinging with them, whether it's at the opponent's Digimon or into their security, it doesn't matter. It's just a blanket generic DP boost. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Tentomon. So this is the starter deck version of Tentomon, and this Tentomon is really good because he has this nice on-play ability where you get to check the top card of your deck, and then if it's a green Digimon, you get to add it to your hand. Otherwise, you get to place it back on the bottom of your deck. So this is looking to be a pretty decent card because for all intents and purposes, it's basically like a Gabumon, where you're just using this to try to draw a card. Yes, you do have the off chance of it whiffing, but because it's only checking the top 1 instead of the top X, you're going to have a very low chance of it whiffing, especially the way the deck is built. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Palmon. So this is the starter deck version of Palmon, and this Palmon is absolutely fantastic because of her inheritable ability, where it's another when attacking skill. If you're attacking into an opponent's Digimon, then this Digimon gains plus 2000 DP for the turn. So this is just another way of DP boosting your Digimon. Yes, you have to be attacking into the opponent's Digimon, but the DP boost is quite large at 2000, and you can pair this up with Minomon to get a 3000 DP boost when you're attacking into the opponent's Digimon, and that's just making whatever Digimon you're attacking with really, really strong. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Vegiemon. So Vegiemon is just another value-efficient vanilla card where it has a low play cost, low evo cost, and decent DP compared to all of the other level 4s in the entire game. So this is just a very powerful and very efficient card overall to be running, which is why we want it. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Kabuterimon. So this is the BT01 version of Kabuterimon, and we're using this version of Kabuterimon as another way of DP boosting our Digimon. So he has the nice inheritable ability where during your turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for every suspended Digimon the opponent has. So we're going to be having a whole bunch of different ways to suspend the opponent's Digimon, so it's not going to be hard catching them in a suspended state just to make our Digimon that much stronger and allowing us to do more powerful things because our Digimon is going to be stronger for their rested or suspended Digimon. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Roachmon. So this is kind of a flex spot. It could really be anything you feel like you want to be using. I just feel like for what the deck is trying to do, Roachmon is really good just because he's another value-efficient vanilla card where he has a low play cost, low evo cost, and we don't care about the DP because we just want to get off of him as fast as we possibly can into our higher stages. So that's kind of like the whole goal of the deck, is just to try to get into our level 5s as fast as possible, and by extension our level 6s, so having this Roachmon act as basically a pseudo-rookie on a level 4 body is just really good. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Jagamon. So Jagamon is the star of the show and what the whole entire deck is built and focused around. And what this card is doing is he has the really unique when attacking ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards from our deck. Then we get to Digivolve into 1 green level 6 from among them for free, and then the rest go to the bottom of our deck in any order. So this is just a really powerful ability because the opponent might not be expecting you to actually be able to go into a level 6, or if they do, they expect that you going into that level 6 will end your turn. So Jagamon having the ability to just go into the level 6 is really, really powerful. Yes, it does have the possibility of whiffing, but we do have another card, thanks to BT05, that helps with the overall consistency on trying to get this ability off, making it even stronger than it normally would be. Especially with the way this deck is built, we are running a higher number of level 6s, which I'll get into in just a moment, to increase the overall success rate of Jagamon's ability hitting. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Argomon. So Argomon is just going to be a really powerful card still, just because he has this nice Digisorption 3 ability where you get to suspend 1 Digimon on your field to basically reduce the Digivolution cost of this card by 3, which basically means we get to Digivolve him for 0, and that's just really powerful. We could use Digisorption with himself while he's on the field to just get into a level 6 very fast and very efficiently. Yes, if you are Digisorbing himself, then the level 6 will come in rested, but if the opponent doesn't have the ability to respond to that level 6, especially if it's rested, then it could still put in quite a lot of work, and it combos with the Argomon Digitama to where when we are unsuspending during our turn, then we're going to be gaining that 1 memory. Same thing with Jagamon, just him attacking means that the Digimon's going to be in a suspended state. So that way, when we unsuspend it during our unsuspend phase, then we'll be gaining that 1 memory to make us even more tempo efficient than we were before. So Argomon is just looking to be very good just for that Digisorption ability alone. And then on top of that, he even has another ability, which is an inheritable ability of when attacking, you get to play 1 level 3 green Digimon from your hand suspended for free. So him just being able to allow us to spawn extra bodies on board is just looking to be really, really powerful. The only unfortunate thing is they are going to enter in suspended, but again, if the opponent isn't able to respond to them being suspended, then it doesn't necessarily matter and it's not really a downside. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Blossomon. So Blossomon is basically doing the exact same thing as Argomon, where it just has the Digisorption 3 ability to basically allow us to Digivolve into this card for free, allowing us to go up into our higher stages that much faster and that much more efficiently with. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Skull Scorpomon. So if you really wanted to, you could just get more copies of Blossomon, but I feel like sometimes Skull Scorpomon is really good because he has that Monzimon stat line where he's just another value-efficient vanilla card where he has a low play cost, low evo cost, and low DP, allowing us to just hard play the card and try to get off of him into our higher stages that much faster. So if we ever do run into a, in quotation marks, brick scenario where we're unable to play our cards super efficiently, that's where these types of cards come in handy just because they are really efficient to play and they don't feel as bad as some of the others. So if I were to hard play any of my level 5s, I would want to hard play Skull Scorpomon just because he has the lowest on play cost in case I do run into those brick scenarios. Next up, onto the Megas, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Mega Gargomon. So Mega Gargomon is a pretty solid Digimon to be using because he's got 2 very powerful abilities. His first ability is a when Digivolving ability, you get to suspend 1 of the opponent's Digimon, and that Digimon doesn't unsuspend during the opponent's next unsuspend phase. So this allows you to stun lock one of the opponent's Digimon down, and then the benefit for keeping one of the opponent's Digimon suspended is that he also has a nice ability where during your turn, while your opponent has a suspended Digimon in play, then this Digimon gains up security attack +1. So the whole idea is you're going to be swinging with Jagamon. Jagamon hopefully is going to hit Mega Gargamon. Then you'll Digivolve into Mega Gargamon for free because Mega Gargamon does have a slightly higher Evo cost than some of the other Megas we could be running, which is kind of the whole idea is we're just using Jagamon to get into these cards more efficiently than before. But we Digivolve into Mega Gargamon for free, getting his when Digivolving ability to stun lock one of the opponent's Digimon, and while their opponent's Digimon is suspended, because we are attacking with Jagamon, then we get to get the security attack +1 off of Mega Gargamon. So that's just a really powerful line of play that we're trying to get off, thus making Mega Gargamon really, really strong, on top of the fact that he is keeping the Digimon suspended not only for the rest of our turn, but throughout the opponent's turn, so that way when we're going back into our turn, it's still suspended, so that way we could get an additional security attack off with Mega Gargamon again, and other ways to try to keep the Digimon suspended, or just to get rid of the Digimon by attacking into it. So Mega Gargamon is just an absolutely fantastic card for what this deck is trying to do, especially on a budget. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Lotusmon. So Lotusmon is another really interesting Digimon to be using for this deck just because it does have, again, a slightly higher Evo cost than a lot of the other level 6s that we could be playing, which again is the whole point because we are going to try to use Jagamon to go into Lotusmon. So what Lotusmon is doing is that she has a really unique ability where during all turns, when you or your opponent play a level 4 or lower Digimon, then you get to suspend it. So this is just very powerful of an ability to have just because if the opponent is trying to hard play lots of their cards, then you're going to have Lotusmon be able to suspend them. And then while they're suspended, if you have Mega Gargamon on the field also, then he's going to get security attack plus off of it. And then on top of which, you could also attack into those suspended Digimon, or you could keep them suspended for some other various reasons. So Lotusmon is just another very powerful card at suspending the opponent's Digimon, and just being a very powerful Digimon in her own right. And then the last mega of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Hercules Kabuterimon. So Hercules Kabuterimon is going to be the dedicated piercer of the deck, just because if we are beating up onto the opponent's Digimon, we want some sort of benefit or reward for doing so. So Hercules Kabuterimon allowing us to deal security damage on top of deleting the opponent's Digimon is just looking to be very strong. On top of that, he even has his own main ability of Digiburst 2, where we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down. So the whole idea behind this is we do want to have some ways of suspending the opponent's Digimon down. So Hercules Kabuterimon basically having Flower Cannon on a stick is very, very powerful, especially in combination with that piercing ability. And again, if we just have Mega Gargamon sitting on the field along with Hercules Kabuterimon, because we are able to go up into our higher stages very fast, very efficiently, and Jagamon could make it happen in some really surprising fashion, then he does a combo with it where you could suspend the opponent's Digimon, then Mega Gargamon can swing into the opponent's security, getting the security attack +1, and then Hercules Kabuterimon could then end up deleting the opponent's Digimon, thus dealing more damage through his piercing ability. So he's just another really good card to synergize with the deck overall. Next, onto the options, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Hidden Potential Discovered. So this is the only option I feel like we really need. There are some other really good options. It was just really hard trying to fit it into the style of deck because we needed to take up more spaces to have for more level 6s than you normally would because of Jagamon's ability. So Hidden Potential Discovered is basically the only option I feel like we really need, just because this is a very powerful option with the main ability where next time you Digivolve your green Digimon this turn, you get to suspend one of your Digimon to reduce the memory cost of the Digivolution by 5. So this is really powerful because basically it's allowing us to go into our level 6s for free, which is really, really good because the opponent might not be expecting us to be able to go into our level 6s super fast and super efficiently. And if we could get multiple level 6s on the field, then we could create very powerful board states to just try to steamroll the game from there. So Hidden Potential Discovered is just a really good card to use for the overall tempo and efficiency of what the deck is trying to do. And it even has the really nice security ability of adding this card back into our hand. So this card is a one of, so if it is in our security, we don't feel bad about it being in our security because it's going to go back into our hand, so we could use it when we're ready. So I really like what this card is doing, and this card is super powerful, but unfortunately the card is limited, so we can only run one of it. Same thing with the Argomon level 5. Next, onto the Tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Ken Ichichoji. So the Tamer slot for this is kind of flexible. If you really wanted to, you could use Mimi, or if you really wanted to, you could cut out this Tamer entirely and just run some more options. It's really up to you, so this is just another flex spot. I just feel like for what the deck is trying to do, Ken is just a really good Tamer, just because he has this really nice ability where he is the memory fixing Tamer of the deck. So if our memory is ever less than 3, he's just going to hard set it to 3. And then on top of that, he has another ability where during your turn, when one of your green or blue Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon by battle and survives, then you get to suspend this Tamer to gain 1 memory. So green likes to play with attacking into the opponent's Digimon and deleting their Digimon through combat, so Ken is just a really good card to reward you by gaining a memory for doing those types of actions, thus making Ken a really good card to use. And then the last card and last Tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Izzy and Mimi. So Izzy and Mimi is a very powerful duo Tamer for the deck, and this is the card that tries to help make the deck even more powerful and consistent on Jagamon's ability as a whole, just because of what this card is doing. So this card is a duo Tamer, so it has the ability to gain you 2 memory for some sort of condition, and that condition is at the start of your turn. If your opponent has a suspended Digimon in play, then you get to gain 2 memory. So again, we have a whole bunch of ways of suspending the opponent's Digimon down themselves, or if the opponent is going to use their Digimon to attack into us, then they're just going to naturally end up with a suspended Digimon. So Izzy and Mimi is a really decent duo Tamer to try to gain some additional memory, and this ability does stack, so the more Izzy and Mimis you have on the field, the more memory you'll gain from this ability. And then on top of that, they also have another really good ability where when you're attacking with a level 5 green Digimon, you get to suspend this Tamer to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you get to Digivolve into a green level 6 from among them with that attacking Digimon for free, and then the rest go to the bottom in any order. So this is basically just Jagamon's ability, so doubling up on Jagamon's ability just increases his overall success rate. This also could work on any of our other level 5s if we feel like trying to aggress with them, turning them into Jagamons basically. So this is just really good in combination with all of the cards that we're playing around with, just to try to get into our level 6s that much more efficiently with, thus making this strategy a little bit more viable than it was in the past. And then you still just have a whole bunch of other options and tools that the deck could be utilizing inside of a budget and outside of a budget. So if you wanted to, you could run Kokuomon just to try to give it your high levels security attack plus, so that way they can consistently deal even more damage and apply lots of more pressure onto the opponent. So that's also looking to be pretty good. The only unfortunate thing is it does Evo for 1 and hard play for 4, so it's not super efficient, but we do have ways of saving the efficiency on other places and gaining memory, so that could end up being to our benefit, allowing us to actually try to play Kokuomon. Then we do have the blockers that we could be playing around with, so if you feel like you want to add some blockers for some overall defense, then you have Woodmon and the starter deck Kabuterimon to act as 2 very good blockers with different stat lines, so you could use the different stat lines in different ways, all depending on what you're valuing and what you want to gain out of the deck. And then on top of that, you also have the starter deck Togemon. So the starter deck Togemon is just another way of DP boosting your Digimon, so that way when your level 5s or level 6s are attacking into the opponent's Digimon, they're going to be even stronger than they were before. And we also have a whole bunch of other really good and powerful level 5s that we could be playing around with. So one of the best that I'm going to be highlighting here is going to be Mega Kabuterimon from the starter deck. So what this card is doing is when one of our Digimon deletes the opponent's Digimon by battle and survives, then we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack. So if you wanted to, you could think about running Imperial Jamon Dragon Mode, just because he has a Evo cost of 5, which we could ignore thanks to Jagamon and thanks to Izzy and Mimi. So this is just a really good card to go into off of them. And then it also has the piercing ability natively, so if you want this to be the deck's dedicated piercer, or you want to run even more piercers, then this card is really good for that also. And on top of which, it also has another ability where during your turn once per turn, when this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon and survives the battle, then you get to unsuspend this Digimon, so you could even potentially multi-attack with this Digimon, making him a very powerful Digimon to cheat up into. And then we also have Nidhoggmon that we could think about, just because, again, Nidhoggmon also has a very high evo cost, even higher than your normal ones. So Jagamon into Nidhogg is still very powerful, especially if we could get Nidhogg's when Digivolving ability off of Digiburst 4. So that way we could suspend all of the opponent's Digimon with 5,000 DP or less, and then all of them can go to the bottom of the deck that are suspended. So this is just another really powerful removal ability, and on top of which he also just naturally has that 13,000 DP. So we're just getting into a very strong Digimon regardless off of Jagamon, even if we don't get the Digiburst ability off. And then if you wanted to, you could try to squeeze in some level 7s, so we do have access to both Chaosmon and Chaosmon Volderarm to use for their various abilities, all depending on what you're looking to gain out of the deck. Either one are very strong cards, and both of them do have their own levels of utility and flexibility on how the deck could adapt to them. And then on top of that, you also have Flower Cannon to act as another really good option card to just try to suspend the opponent's Digimon down for various reasons. And it also is a really good defensive card in the security. Same thing with Needle Spray, they're doing almost the same thing, except that their security abilities are a little bit different. I prefer Needle Spray over Flower Cannon, but given the right meta and against the right decks, Flower Cannon might be a more stronger card overall, but it's just up to personal taste and preference at that point. And then on top of that, you also do have a really interesting removal option card that you could be playing in the deck in the form of Terrace Cluster, just because your opponent's Digimon have a very high chance of being suspended, and this card allows you to put those suspended Digimon onto the bottom of the deck, especially if you combo it with some other cards that just force suspend the opponent's Digimon down, then you could end your turn in Terror Cluster to put to the bottom of the deck. Then, as I mentioned before, we do have some other tamers that we could think about playing. Mimi is another really good tamer that synergizes it very nicely with the deck, just because, again, she's a memory-fixing tamer, so she could fulfill that role very easily. And on top of that, her main ability to basically give us another breeding or raising phase, as long as we have a level 5 or higher green Digimon in play, is just really powerful, because that allows us to build our stacks a lot more quicker and efficiently than the opponent, so that way we could possibly get into that ideal board state of having multiple megas on board and try to steamroll the game from there. And then on top of that, you also have the Black Izzy you could think about playing, just because the Black Izzy is a really interesting card because he's also fulfilling that memory fixing tamer slot. And on top of that, he also has a nice on-play ability to allow us to check the top 3 cards of our deck. We don't care about gaining the memory because there are not going to be black cards at all. We just want that level of information to know if we should be attacking with our Jagamon or triggering the ability off of our Izzy and Mimi. So this just gives us that information for a turn, which could be very, very good. And on top of that, you also have Davis you could think about to just add to the overall consistency of the deck if consistency in your draws is what you're looking to gain. There's just a whole bunch of other tamers that you could possibly run. These are just the highlights that I feel like would be really good in complements with what the deck is trying to do. But for the most part, this is just what my interpretation of a Jagamon high roll deck is going to look like, and I think it's going to be a really fun deck, especially in the future when we get even stronger megas to be playing around with, and we get more support for this type of strategy. It's going to be a really interesting and fun deck to play. I don't necessarily think it's going to be super highly competitive, but it's definitely a really fun and interesting and exciting deck when things are going to be working out. And again, there's just a whole bunch of other things that you could do with the deck depending on how you want to play it and what you're trying to gain out of it. So one of my friends who was really liking and enjoying this style of deck, he was playing Dimension Scissor with the deck to try to get multiple attacks off with Jagamon, so that way he could get multiple triggers off, trying to trigger Jagamon as often as he possibly can. So that's just, again, another example of all of the different things that you could do with this deck, and you could even change up your mega lineup, again, all depending on what you want to gain out of the deck and what you want to play. But this is just a very fun deck to be playing overall. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.